Okay, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Future Mobility Summit 2021, Session 5, Noble Mobility. Today being Saturday, let me first say good afternoon to Oriental side of my participants and good morning, early morning to Occidental side far in the US. Ryan is attending 1 a.m. in the morning. Thank you, Ryan, for the trouble to be here. So good afternoon, good evening to all, and good morning to Occidental side of our participants. So welcome to FMS 2021, and we are very pleased to have the session on cutting edge and integrated multimodal public transportation systems, which is a very vital part of sustainable mobility future. And today's session is divided into two parts. Part one, where we will have a very special interaction with our guest of honor, Mr. Jasmine Shah, who is the Vice Chair of Delhi Dialogue and Development Commission. And this will definitely give excellent perspective to the government side. And this will be followed by an extraordinary panel discussion on the public transportation systems, multimodal future. And to do the justice with that, we have a very excellent mix of panelists present here, starting with Ryan Schuchard. He's the Director of Innovative Mobility, CalStart USA. Thank you, Ryan, for being there. We have Mr. Suhash Kullar, Strategy Head and Partnership Head, Shuttle, responsible for bus aggregation. We also have with us Industry Doyen, Dr. A.K. Jindal. He is the Advisory Mobility, New Products and Technology, Tata Auto Component System Limited. And we have with us Dr. I.V. Rao, Senior Visiting Fellow, Terry, and a known face in industry. And to do justice with the panel discussion, we have a very eminent journalist, none other than our very known Mr. Pankaj Duwal, the Senior Editor, Times of India. And entire session will be chaired by a very prominent face in industry, Mr. B. Srinivas. He is Executive Management Team Member, Product Strategy, V Commercial Vehicles Limited. Without much ado, I would invite the session chair, Mr. B. Srinivas, to give his opening remarks and begin the session. So over to you, Mr. Srinivas.
Thank you, Mr. Thanks a lot. As you mentioned, it's a great time. Good afternoon and good morning, all of you. And it is indeed my pleasure to be part of this important summit on future mobility. I thank the organizers, SIAM, CII, ACMA, to invite me for providing the perspective into this discussion around public transportation. I believe this is the last one in the series today. And I would like to thank all the speakers who joined today. And I'm sure this session is going to be a great one. And it will really end in a novel manner. And it is very heartening to have with us a very special guest, Mr. Jasmine Shah, Vice Chairperson, Delhi Dialogue and Development Commission, Delhi Government. Let me try and provide our perspective on this discussion. Mobility has been triggered by a growing population, urbanization, smarter cities, connected technologies, maybe conscious consumerism, and a need to travel quickly, but also safely and efficiently. This continuously unfolds innumerable potential in new mobility concepts for industry and society. As the shift towards mobility will happen fastest and most dramatically in urban environment, it is required that we broaden the aperture to imagine how people and goods will actually move into the future, and what types of vehicles, what technologies, data, services, and capabilities are needed to make that movement possible. Since users need to move from one place to another in a fast and comfortable manner, many cities across the world have opted for improving their public transportation. In order to provide a long-term sustainable capability, probably this is the most, maybe the ideal way of working. In this current changing and social geographical conditions, probably this actually plays a very important role. To this end, cities are also migrating to multimodal transportation systems, wherein different mobility technologies coexist, something which gives user access to an entire transit network to reach their destination. With rapid industrialization and urbanization, urban population in India is expected to increase from 377 million in 2011 to probably 590 million in 2030. This is coupled with current and projected economic trends likely to lead a public urban transportation to provide users with different ways of moving. Give some numbers. I believe the current average speeds in a city like Bangalore is probably 17 kilometers and Delhi is maybe 25 to 27 kilometers. It means the population like in Bangalore, wherein 1.2 crores of people must be spending around 60 crores of man hours in must be spending on the road only. It means we just convert into a fuel way around 2.8 lakh liters per hour probably must be actually getting wasted in this kind of the current set of the transportation model. So this is the time to evolve the best and the most efficient model. The multi-modal transportation system provides us convenience and also economical connection of various modes to make a complete journey from origin to destination. MMTS is probably characterized by increased capacity, efficient access, and better localization of both integration and modes. Public transport is an important constituent of multimodal transportation system. Hence, local and regional public transportation system must be an integral part of the same. So I think there is an immense potential because looking at to the kind of opportunities in IoT and digital technologies, things will get augmented very quickly. We can see many examples kicking in the country. Startups like probably you have seen many startups coming up in the place like Shuttle, City Flow, and various things. And at the same time, the word Uberizing the public transportation is catching up, and it is. I believe it will become very popular, and this will actually will become more popular with online ticketing services like Redbus and Cello.com, and several things will actually make the life much easier. At the same time, there is a good participation from government side. The Delhi government has been very focusing with these initiatives like Ab Bus Karo. So I feel that it is the right time to invite the participation of the private into this. The triple P model, which is getting evolved, probably can be a good support system for evolving into the right model. And it is also heartening to see that Delhi government is now going up with a single card for multiple modes of public transportation like metro, buses, three-wheelers, etc. I think all these steps are enabling us to walk towards the right path. And also these initiatives would increase awareness about utility of public transportation. The efforts would have to be focused on changing the current image of public transportation in this country. Probably the public transportation is not seen as the best way of transportation today. We need to change that image very quickly. However, for a strategic growth of public transportation, smarter infrastructure is needed, and that can support multiple modes of traveling within the cities. In this context, I feel it is actually not a great model of BRTS in Delhi. Had it been a great success, we would have seen several examples. In my view, with the right spirit and with the right manner, if you find, we can find better success in a model like BRTS also. It may also be possible in the electrification, whatever the BRTS model will evolve, that will be more successful and more efficient and effective. Currently, all of us going through a challenging times of COVID. It has actually impacted the mobility. We have seen the overall public transportation and the bus system is impacted badly. I strongly feel once we are out of this crisis, and the vaccination drive gets completed, there will be a quantum jump and there will be a huge revival in this domain. With this, I would like to close my speech here. And now I have the privilege of inviting Mr. Jasmine Shah, our guest of honor for the session, to deliver his special address to the August gathering. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Srinivas, and my heartfelt thanks to the organizers for organizing such a timely summit on an important topic of mobility, and especially public transport, which is very close to our hearts in Delhi government. Before we talk about, and I'll sort of in the next few minutes, I'll try and recount how Delhi has been thinking about evolving and modernizing its public transport system. But the larger challenge that majority of cities in India do face today is not the sort of the strategy. I mean, they don't even get to the strategy of public transport or the how of modernize and improving public transport, because I think the question of why invest in public transport has still not been answered as far as India is concerned. By and large, our public transport systems still continue to be underinvested in, um, with the only exception of being metro systems. Because when we talk about urban public transport, there is metro and then there are bus systems. Now, we have all the data to show that majority of public transport users preferred and actually use the bus system, not just in India, but around the world. Metro plays a role, especially when you have very large metropolises and also those which are spread out. But there has been a very interesting and I would say perverse trend that we are seeing in our Indian cities, where cities have been very easy to sort of fall and say yes to set up metro systems when there is really no technical need. I mean, they've not really reached the kind of traffic patterns that justify the investment in a metro. So clearly, the incentive there seems to be more to sort of showcase a toy, as a city or as a matter of pride, rather than invest in a public transport solution that will actually move people and move masses efficiently, quickly, and safely. And that is where sort of the role of the bus public transport or the public bus system comes in, where we've seen cities after cities, we have underinvested for years together. And I don't think the public pressure or even the articulation of why should cities invest in public transport now and urgently, and therefore the question of clean and digital, I mean, part of the themes of this session come in next. But I think this entire idea of what is the timeline by which we reach the necessary amount of buses that each of our, let's say, top 20 or top 50 cities in India need. And that question is still not answered today. There is no timeline, there is no deadline, there is no national goal, there is no statewide goal. So I want to sort of frame the work that is happening in Delhi in that larger context, because I think it shows a certain amount of political leadership when cities like Delhi do step up and take a call that we are going to invest in clean 21st century public bus system. I mean, metro system obviously is something that everybody is aware of, that Delhi has one of the best metro systems in the world. We have invested a lot and we will continue to invest a lot. But the message is we will not do that at the cost of underinvesting in public bus system. And as of now in Delhi, we have 7,600 buses. And there's a very clear stage-wise plan that in the next 4 years, we are in the, we've just finished the first year of a 5-year term of the current government. By the end of this 5-year term, we would reach the target of 11,000 buses, which would be the largest for any city in India. So in sheer terms of accessibility, in terms of the reliability with which you can expect a bus is going to sort of drastically increase as a result of that. When it comes to sort of how do you ensure that people adopt buses, and we again see this sort of almost a differentiation that it's metro is used by everyone, especially the middle classes. But when you go to the bus systems, you typically see people who cannot afford any other mode of transport are forced to use the bus system. And this is the reality sort of, again, a majority of the country that we see. And we are very determined in Delhi to change this by ensuring that it is not just the number of buses, but the entire public transport system is modernized, the quality of the ride, the safety of the ride, and the reliability of the ride. All of these things are addressed one at the same time. And therefore, some of the projects, I mean, when you think about the news that emerges out from Delhi, I mean, it can be seen as piecemeal news, but the kind of projects that we are rolling out are sort of part of that vision that, we've started working in this dimension, of course, for the last few years. But I would say, in the next 2 to 3 years, you will see a completely different phase of public bus system taking root in Delhi, which I'm very sure will be markedly distinct from any other city in India. And what will be the attributes of, therefore, these modern public transport system that we are trying to build in Delhi? First is it's a connected, seamlessly connected network. We have initiated and we are at the final stages of rolling out a bus route rationalization plan for Delhi. So many of our bus routes in our cities are planned ad hoc, or if at all they were planned in a very considered manner, they're not updated from time to time. So in Delhi, we've carried out a lot of data crunching analysis, and finally, so when we say that we want to expand the number of buses, we also it is imperative that we actually deploy them on routes where the people actually are or where the businesses are coming up, so that it actually adds to the economic growth and prosperity of the city. And therefore, in that light, we've carried out a very extensive study, and over the next 2 or 3 years, the entire public transport network of Delhi is going to be guided by this scientific study and analysis that we have done, with a very clear and precise goal that people anywhere, a person staying in any part of Delhi should be able to catch a bus within 500 meters of their house. So that is the question of accessibility, that you cannot have entire pockets or neighborhoods which are completely inaccessible to the public transport system. And the second is the reliability, that in peak hours, you should not wait more than 15 minutes. At this time, we have defined our service quality as 15 minutes to catch a bus to any part of Delhi. Right. So that were the parameters by which the entire sizing and planning for this network has been carried out. And it's something which is unprecedented. It's not happened in Delhi. I'm not aware if this kind of analysis and therefore system design and implementation is based on very well-defined benchmarks of service level, which we are now well into the path of doing. The second is the technical integration, and this is where sort of Mr. Srinivas mentioned about the common mobility card. So there is a talk of a national common mobility card, but in Delhi we've already implemented a mobility card that you can make the payment through a common card, which can be used in metro systems. It can also be used by bus systems, which is already in effect. And it will soon be extended even for three-wheelers, which is the multimodal component part of it, and even for electric charging stations. We're setting up a large number of EV charging stations in the city, but to use one card for all your mobility needs. And that is why it is called one card. One Delhi card or one card is the name that we have given to this entire card. We've recently, because of COVID, there was this, of course, scare of traveling by public transport, and we as a government brainstormed as to what is it we can do to ensure that safety concerns are taken care of. And what we have therefore done is we've rolled out contactless ticketing, right? So without needing to pay the conductor, take a bus ticket, how can we ensure that people can travel? And therefore we have, a QR code based system has been, the technology is frankly not very complicated, but to put it in a place where there are 7,600 buses, there are thousands and thousands of conductors, drivers, the entire bus transport system, and to educate the public to use it is a mammoth task. And we've done multiple trials. And finally, as on this week, we have rolled it out in all the DTC buses, which is roughly half of our bus fleet. And then we have this PPP model wherein there are private operators but contracted by the government. We call it the cluster model. And it's being rolled out in this also from 1st of March onwards, so in a couple of days. So we will have all of Delhi buses will now have therefore contactless ticketing. All of this is going to come together also on a single mobile app where you can view all your buses. You can do this contactless ticketing on this app. You can also see, so all of our buses have also been now fitted with GPS, and therefore you can track these buses. You can see the waiting time of these buses at bus stops. And again, when I talked about sort of modernizing public transport, it's not just the infrastructure and the quality of bus when you look at it, but it's whether it has all these additional services to ensure that there is reliability. And reliability is, people should be able to say how much time will they have to wait for their next bus, and sort of having GPS and then networking it and providing that information to commuters on a mobile app is a project that will actually take care of that. Safety is a huge concern again when it comes to public transport. Delhi also is a city which we do recognize and realize where there are safety. Women's safety is a important topic that the government is serious about tackling. And therefore, another project that we've invested in and which is sort of at the final stages of being rolled out is all our buses will have CCTV cameras, and it will have panic buttons and panic alarms, which will all be networked into a common command and control center. And again, no bus system, no city in India has ensured that all their buses are sort of, sporting this kind of a modern infrastructure. It's a huge investment which the city has made in retrofitting our existing fleet of roughly 5,000 or 6,000 buses with these kind of technological features. And all our new buses that are arriving, this is part of our tender conditions. This becomes now the base model of any bus that arrives in Delhi. They're also accessible for the disabled. So from that sense, the accessibility is ensured for all our buses. Another major initiative that only Delhi has taken, and again, I think the idea is sort of where does the political will come in? We see the bus network as fundamentally, or the public transport network as fundamentally about enabling citizens to access opportunities, better education opportunities, better job opportunities. And there is plenty of research to show that women especially are today not able to participate in our economy because there are inhibitations to sort of travel very far or to spend on the travel of women. I mean, even within the same family, a woman is not allowed to travel 20 kilometers to, join a college, but the boy of the family, sort of, there may not be much concerns. So that is the reason that last year, almost 1.5 years back, Delhi government made public transport for women in Delhi's buses only, not the metro, but again, buses take care of roughly 60 or 70% of all the trips that happen in Delhi. And travel in buses has been made free for women. It's a historic step. It is unprecedented globally. I don't think there are few small cities, I think, in Europe that have made public transport entirely free. But as of now, at least in India, Delhi is the only city that has completely opened up, a network of opportunities, education, jobs for women by this kind of a decision. So that is sort of broadly, the some of highlights of some of the key decisions that Delhi government has made, and some of our initiatives, which some of them are under implementation, some of them have been implemented. I did not talk about another major initiative that we've taken to ensure safety of women in buses. So I talked about CCTV cameras and these, but there is also a perception that if you have a security guard or who is there to enforce women's safety in the bus physically, then that really adds to the confidence of women who wish to travel using public transport. And again, therefore, Delhi, this was a scheme that was progressively implemented over the last 4 years. But over the last 1 year, we've reached 100% saturation of the bus marshal scheme. So we have a bus marshal, a person charged specifically to ensure safety of all passengers, but particularly women and the elderly. And so this person is physically there on the bus at all the time and is available, anytime a passenger calls for help or support. And this has been very, very warmly received. We've had researchers from Harvard who are actually studying the impact of, the perception of safety in riding in Delhi's buses and how that has changed because of this kind of rollout of the bus marshal scheme. So I'll stop at this. There is plenty that is planned for in the next few years, and much of this would not have been possible if we could not have. I mean, many of these ideas actually have come from the industry, from the people, from experts that we have collaborated with, and for them to know that there is a government that is willing to take a leadership in investing in public transport system. There are governments that look at cutting costs for us to go out and actually make it free for roughly half of our population. Sort of shows the commitment that our government has, and we do see that a modern Delhi, is not possible. The vision of a modern Delhi is not possible without a modern public transport system, which certainly includes metro, but more importantly, should also have the bus transport system. Thank you.
So thank you very much, Mr. Shah, for your very comprehensive and informative to be the example proud that strides you are making have shown in terms of seamless multimodal public transportation systems with the safer, affordable, accessible, and technologically well established system, which will be the need of people in time to come. So, Mr. Srinivas, your setting of the context as an opening remark has really brought the first part of the session live. We thank both of you profusely, and I request now Senior Editor, Times of India, Mr. Pankaj Dhawan, to take the exciting panel discussion forward. So, Pankaj, over to you.
Thank you very much, and just been very nice to listen to what you were saying. Delhi government is actually building up on the infrastructure that we already have. It is exciting, it is challenging, but I think there are a lot of opportunities that we have to make transport within the city very seamless. I thank you all, and especially Ryan, who's joining us from far away, and I think it's 1:30 a.m. by now where he's sitting. So thank you for your spirited presence out here, and in fact, you're the most well-dressed out here, along with Prashant. Thanks a lot for the time. So I guess you have a presentation to make before you give your views. So why don't we start with you? Please, you can make your presentation, Ryan. We'll start with you.
Great, and that was for me, for Ryan? Okay,
yes.
I thought so. Very
good. Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Which presenter is up now? Is it me? I'm sorry, or is it somebody else?
It's you.
Okay, sorry. There's a little bit of a delay in my system. Okay, thank you so much. Let me see if I can share. I'm attempting to share slides. Can anybody see?
Yes, we
can. You see this? Okay, very good. Well, hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. My name is Ryan Schuchart, and I'm the Director for Innovative Mobility at CalSTART. And first of all, thank you so much for inviting me, for the CAI and the organizers for the invitation to be here. I'm just so honored to join my fellow panelists and discuss this very important topic. Now, for those who don't know CalSTART, which I suspect might be many of you, we're a United States-based clean transportation nonprofit organization, which is headquartered in California. And we're a consortium of about 270 organizations that are members who are all working to advance and accelerate clean transportation and mobility solutions. And the members are everything in the clean transportation value chain, from manufacturers to fuel and infrastructure providers to prominent delivery fleets, public agencies, research institutions, and utilities. And we have historically been focused in the United States, headquarters in Pasadena, but we've been expanding, and we have a particular expertise in California, which is really one of the world centers for vehicle transportation. And through our work advancing policy and and technology deployments, we've expanded internationally to develop a program called the Global Commercial Vehicle Drive to Zero program. And last year, this became the official campaign of the Clean Energy Ministerial's Electric Vehicle Initiative, managed by the International Energy Agency. And over the next 5 years, our plan with Drive to Zero is to enable and accelerate the growth of global zero-emission commercial vehicles with the vision that zero-emission technology will become commercially viable and cost-competitive by 2025 in first success segments, which we call also beachhead segments. And the leading regions in the world will dominate new vehicle sales across all of the segments by 2040. So that's CalSTART. And now what I'd like to do is just offer a brief perspective. And the perspective is that zero-emission transit is really the first stop, or one of the first stops, on the journey to advanced transportation technologies. And there's three things to know. The first thing is that transit buses are really the duty cycle to electrify first, even before cars. That is because that buses really have an ideal duty cycle. They often do, for a number of reasons. They tend to operate in more confined areas. They return to base each day or throughout the day. They operate at relatively slow speeds. They do frequent starts and stops. Single entities control large fleets, and they're typically controlled by public agencies. So that's the first thing. And these are all factors which make transit buses really a place to start with for electrifying vehicles. The second thing is that transit buses are what we call the beachhead for electrifying all medium and heavy duty vehicles, or at least most. And this will take some time, but there's a strategic way to do it that we have a lot of confidence in. And the story here is that investments and the improvements in battery technology, powertrains, and other components for transit buses can be transferred to subsequent vehicle applications like shuttle vans, urban delivery vans, regional vehicle delivery trucks, refuse trucks, and so on. And so this makes transit buses really part of a much bigger story about the electrification revolution. And the third idea is that now there is really a suite of emerging technologies coming on for connectivity, automation, electrification, and lightweight materials that if you put together and with scale, we think could create a next generation transit system that will make a rider experience which will actually compete with personally owned cars. And this is significant for a lot of reasons, including that today, at least in California and the US, where we have the most experience, only about 1% of on-road people movement, of energy use for on-road people movement is with buses, while 99% is with conventional private cars that are mostly driving around alone. So the market potential, as well as the ability to make transportation systems much safer and more affordable, is just enormous. That's mostly it, but I will just show you a quick model here of this this beachhead diagram, and it shows a path to commercialization with a technology transfer. We can go back to it if folks like. And then on that that idea of next generation transit systems, we know there's a few key technologies in there that that are important. So I'll leave it at that for now, but happy to take any questions or discussions. And with that, I'll conclude my opening remarks, and thank you very much for inviting CalSTART.
Thank you so much. I think you mentioned very important points. Drive to Zero itself is something that inspires everybody because we need clean and green cities. And importantly, you said that they need to be commercially viable because that is very important. That the government cannot be funding much of these innovative new age transport systems. They need to be commercially viable, and also if they make profit, even better. Not at the cost of consumers, though. My question, in fact, let's begin the discussion with Ryan. You and maybe Jaspin can answer after that. That because of the pandemic, Corona pandemic, we've seen a movement from public transport going back into private transport. I would say car sales are growing very, very fast. There is a kind of a V-shaped recovery that we've seen in car sales or two-wheeler sales. private transport is again coming back with a vengeance as such. Over the last 3-4 years, even in India or elsewhere, we saw a strong movement in applications in apps such as Uber or in India we have Ola or other kind of applications, public transport applications. We've shuttle for public transport. But because of the pandemic, we've seen the movement going back towards private transport, which is very scary in the sense that cities are already congested. We have problems of pollution and so many other issues. So, do you think this is a worrying trend, or do you think that with time, as the vaccines start coming out and the safety is there, people will come back to public transport again? Ryan, first you, and then Jasmine can answer that.
What a big question. We're also in California and in the U.S. pretty nervous about this as well. I think that we're seeing so many different trends in different directions. I mean, on the bright side, we're seeing an elevated role in public transit in some cases here, where transit is doing innovative new models to deliver essential goods to people's COVID-homes. We're seeing the emergence of microtransit models in which there's help doing COVID testing and vaccine delivery. So there's kind of these forced experiments that are happening, which we think are very positive. But I think the big picture is we need strong government support to ensure that when the companies that have the workers that have gone home, for those that are doing it, and now the CFOs are thinking, okay, what's the refresh going to look like? That when they do that refresh, that we've got really strong incentives to encourage people not to be driving their cars to work alone, but instead to have what we call transportation demand management projects here. It's going to require a pretty strong government hand, I think, to help make that happen. And it's difficult, at least in the US, it's very challenging with the cities that have lost huge amounts of tax revenues, and these cities and transit agencies are just having such a difficult time. So at least on this side of the ocean, we're going to need really major federal funding to help make that work.
Jasmine, the same issue out here that this fear of social distancing, and the fear of the virus is keeping people away from public transport. Do you feel that's happening, or have you made any assessment on that?
So at least I think the issue is going to play out very differently in different parts of the world. In Delhi, what we have seen is that slowly the people have started coming back to public transport. And I would say a big reason for that is that the government has shown the intention to respond to the event and the pandemic. And I think this is a lesson not just for COVID, but even off COVID period. The moment public transport systems start stagnating, they stop responding to the new expectations of the people who are actually their customers. They are going to sort of the ridership is going to go down, the quality of service, everything is going to go down. And unfortunately, most public transport systems are stuck in that trap that they don't think of their commuters as customers whom they need to provide a quality service, and therefore you are trying to sort of always innovate and provide cater to the changing expectations. But it's more of something that you feel that it's an obligation, you have to do it, and therefore you are going to run your buses. In Delhi, I give you an example of this contactless ticketing, right? That was one of the major concerns people had, that how do you really prevent touch? And therefore we innovated, we worked with researchers from IIIT Delhi and other organizations, and we implemented the system. We also ensured a very strict protocol of sanitizing buses at the end of every trip, right? So this is not at the end of every day, but from start to end, a trip is typically 30 kilometers, and at the end of every trip, they are sanitized. Sanitizers are available inside the bus, gloves are used, and all the other precautions are followed. And I think they have been received well, and there has not been any violation. There has not been any crowding inside the buses. Crowding at the bus stops is still a bit of an issue. In fact, when we were the first bus system to start flying buses when the unlocking phase in India started. And at that time, because we knew that the social distancing at bus stops would be a problem, we actually put a few thousand bus marshals or civil defense guards at the bus stops to ensure that people are standing with social distancing. So again, I think the public transport system will need to respond to such challenges. And if they just don't do anything, then obviously the ridership is going to fall.
Yeah, that's reassuring actually when the government responded so fast. Suhas, I think you want to come in. What has been your experience? Shuttle, obviously, how did you guys see the trend?
Sure. I also, I think what Mr. Jasmine Shah said really resonates with me, but I'll also put some contrast to what we might see in developed world during COVID time. So on one side, the thing is that the density of people per square meter or per square kilometer in India would be maybe 10x of the developed world, whereas number of buses would be probably 1/10 per million people in India. And that's where at the same time, and where this is one contrast. The other contrast is that in India, income levels are much lower. So people really need public transportation to come back.
Absolutely.
So what Mr. Jasmine Shah mentioned is very important, that governments need to be very responsive, and it's commendable the way Delhi government has acted. But that will be one difference that we will see from the developed world. Public transportation is already coming back. Wherever it is available and wherever it is allowed, people are going and saying, this is what we need, because they can't afford to pay. They don't own car. The car ownership is very low in India compared to the globe, because people can't afford cars. So people have to take public transport. And that is why it is important for governments to respond, for private sector to respond, and all the resources that will get put in will get used. In shuttle, of course, right now, because of people are not going back to offices, the volume we are seeing is, but it will very rapidly come back. I think it's only a short-term thing that we are seeing, that people who are going to offices, and especially we serve tech parks where the demand has in the short period of time tapered down. But in a large part of Delhi, or like CP or old hubs, people are back to work. So they need the transportation that government is providing, and for the government to actually be responsive there.
No, I don't know if not the affordability of cars, but I think the affordability of fuel will certainly send people back to public transport, because we are already hitting a century in petrol prices, and I think that is pinching everybody's pocket. So people are going to look at public transport. But coming to Mr. Rao, he's I think one of the most experienced persons in the automotive industry, and leading the R&D effort for Maruti Suzuki for such a long time, and now with Terry. Rao sir, if I could understand that, building intelligent transport solutions, how challenging is it when you look at a living city like Delhi? When we talk about a smart city or a complete new city, that is a very different thing than doing it in a live and very populated, lively city like Delhi, which is already so congested. Introducing something over here, building new solutions for a city like this, how challenging does it become? How do you look at these things? Sorry, you're on mute, I guess. We can't hear you. You're on mute, sir. At the bottom left.
Yeah. Good afternoon. It is definitely challenging for an existing city to be modified and adopt all these new devices. But at the same time, I think it is possible. And to some extent, intelligent transport system was tried in Chennai on a particular route, and it was successful that time. And there are a lot of other cities in different countries where this is very well established, and is being used very efficiently. Of course, you have mentioned about the smart cities. I only hope the smart cities have the the transport planning as a major requirement to avoid all the problems what we see in the big cities like Delhi and other metros. To generally talk about how we should have sustainable mobility, I think instead of looking at different segments of modes of mobility, maybe we should look at overall how, why one needs to move and how we can optimize the actual mobility. Like because of the COVID, we had learned a lot that it's not required to be present physically for conducting a lot of activities efficiently. So with that, we need to change our mindset and also think about how we can do things without moving. So basically, this brings us to the basic philosophy of sustainability, where the avoid, modify, and
Yeah. So I was also asking from the perspective like Delhi had tried this BRT system at one point in time, but again doing it in a city where you are already taking space from an already squeezed out infrastructure, that became a problem, and that is how sometimes when we plan for the new, like I think the Delhi government, like Jasmine was saying, they're looking at rationalization plan, just trying to see whether whatever routes that we are following, whether transport needs are required or not, is something that also needs to be assessed. So from that perspective, I was very keen to understand that. How do you?
I mean, we need to look at actual requirements of various, locations, and then try to build up, optimal routes for all these buses, catering for the basic requirements of those, residents.
If I come to Mr. Srinivas, see, we're all when we talk about new mobility solutions, at least smart mobility solutions, the thing is that we have a lot of technology around us today. We have 70 crore people in India, abroad, I'm saying, who have a smartphone, who are connected to the internet with very cheap data. So when you are building your own products now, buses and trucks and other kind of products, how do you build all these smart solutions into your products so that they are interactive, they are smart, innovative, and also they are clean and green? Maybe also in terms of transport, maybe in terms of the way made. How is this changing in terms of how manufacturers look at it?
I think it's quite an interesting question. See, it would have been challenging earlier with the BS6 coming into place. Give a small thing. Once upon a time, we used to call automotives as purely a mechanical engineer's game. Now, and BS3 it has become electrical. Now in BS6, I think it is purely electronics. So a lot of integration of electronics has been done in the vehicles. Now, majority of the vehicles are connected vehicles. You can say that telematics has become a standard feature there. So, with this kind of features, and also as mentioned in the initial, a lot of things happening in the environment with the usage of smartphone or emerging people like Redbus and bus cellos and so many things. So I think things have become much easier. So we are also working very closely with all these startups and evolving system, and these things are getting provided in the buses or in our vehicles at a very affordable cost. So you can say that because globally we could see a lot of scale for all these facilities. Today, I think a typical telematics system will not cost you much. So similarly, I think majority of these things we are providing in our vehicles, and also we are adopting as quickly as we can in line with some of the best global manufacturers.
So basically, aggregation is the mantra in the sense that you get the best practices from different companies, aggregate into one, and then make a very comprehensive and a very futuristic product.
Right.
If I come to Dr. Jindal now, Tata Group has been working a lot on sustainable mobility, and obviously you also benefit from a variety of companies under the umbrella of the Tatas. wherein, in developing such kind of solutions, you can dig into TCS or Tata Motors or Tata Autocomp and other companies. What are the plans that you have, and how do you look at alternative solutions for cities?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think as you rightly said, before I fully maybe detail, I give you an answer, I would like to just share one slide. Are you able to see the slide?
Yes,
Yes, we can.
Yeah, it slightly makes a little old slide few years back which we made, and I think which resonates very well with what you just now said, that as a Tata Group, we have been looking at various types of modes of transport which can supplement the overall multimodal transport system which we are today talking about. And in that process, Tata Motor has developed different types of vehicles, right from, of course, the buses which are suitable for BRTS, or the full low floor electric and hybrid buses for various feeder operations or even the mainline operations, as well as smaller buses which can be more used for feeder transport. Then shared mobility for the last mile passenger transport. There have been two or three different types of vehicles. So suffice to say that as you rightly said, Tata Group has been quite active in terms of looking at what all the needs for a multiple multimodal transport system for the country. Also necessarily for the city like Delhi, Bangalore, or even other places like Calcutta, where they all these different types of transport live in harmony with whether it is metro or it is last mile passenger transport. Of course, there has been some more addition to this, but that's what I think very clearly says that Tata Group. In fact, there has been a further backward integration from Tata Group to how do we really make that happen, with the electrification being the key drivers for the public transport nowadays to mitigate the effect of pollution, or even adding more vehicles in the similar same space, where we definitely need to provide more and more transport, affordable transport, as was mentioned in previous by the previous speakers. So overall, Tata Group is quite active, and also, of course, providing the real backbone of this, even charging infrastructure for this. So that way, I would say that, as you rightly said, the Tata Group has been quite active, investing even in the backward in terms of now setting up companies which will be supporting the your electrification drive by providing the battery solution, electrified driveline solution, and even the overall the various systems for the vehicle. So while talking about that, I would like to add some few points which were, I think, mentioned during the previous discussions by Jasmine and other people. I think from a multimodal point of view, we need to see things in little two different ways. One is, of course, the type of vehicles, and also in that there has to be some mention about the, I think when we talk about last mile transport, the smaller vehicles, or even where we absolutely today lack about is the footpaths, and even the cycle paths for reaching to the multimodal transport solutions. I think Mr. Jasmine Shah mentioned that they're working on routes, rationalization of routes, so that somebody from his home, if he can come to the bus within 500 meters, that will be the excellent thing. But
Yes.
many of our cities may not be really amenable for that. So obviously they will need the last mile transport, or even a kind of a footpath or a cycle track so to reach that. So
Yes,
the other
yes.
part, of course, is in the multimodal is also apart from electrification is there is a multi-fuel option also, because many of the cities may not be able to have, say, fully electrified or even the other options, or there may be certain fuel options which may be good for particular area. Like for example, LNG is one fuel which is coming up, which is available on the coastal side, both sides of the coast of India. So that will be there. I think it will be good to exploit the CNG and LNG. So this is one point which I wanted to add. I think the another area which was very clearly mentioned again in Mr. Jasmine Shah's remarks, the problem which we have about the public transport is that it is inadequate than what we really need. So in one of the assessment at Tata Motors which we did, today the city transport, only I'm talking about only city buses, and if we talk about buses only, city buses, the population is only around 40,000, whereas actually we need more than 1,60,000 buses at any point of time for only 100 top cities, not to talk about the entire country. So today the challenges which we are facing, particularly even in the context of COVID scenario, the bigger challenge is that we don't have adequate transport number of buses what we really need. Of course, Delhi is, as mentioned, is making efforts to increase the bus park to 11,000. But I think that is one area where a very concerted effort needs to be done to really make this multimodal transport and the public transport successful.
Surely, surely. If I go back to Jasmine and just pick up from what Dr. Jindal said, one of the issues that we've noticed is that many a times the last mile is more expensive and it costs you more than the real transport that you're finally trying to access. For example, if I have to go to a metro station and from metro to a particular destination will charge you 30-40 rupees, but the last mile is going to charge you 50 rupees. It's unsafe and also not that dependable. That makes that is a big challenge in terms of adoption of public transport, because if the last mile is not dependable, not safe, and is expensive, then it kills the whole purpose of having a very, very robust public transport system, but which is not reachable. Obviously, through buses, as you said, that there's a plan to do that. But even in metros, we've seen a big issue with this. How are you trying to sort this out?
So Pankaj, before I respond to this, I would like to excuse myself in a minute. I had planned till 12, so 2:30. So it's been a pleasure to be on this panel. Responding to this, no, absolutely, and I think this is one of the most crucial missing planning that is seen today in our cities. That be it metro or be it even the public bus system, the last mile connectivity and is a challenge today. Let me first just state that. Now, in a place like Delhi, this is complicated by the fact that there are almost 12 or 13 road owning agencies in Delhi. When all of them come at different tiers of government, you have the DDA, which is with the central government, Delhi government has PWD, and then there are municipal bodies and there are other smaller organizations that belong to different levels of government. So to plan an integrated sort of a network, and I personally believe that public transport system, first of all, is not just large buses. I mean, metro, of course, but not just large buses, but even smaller, last mile connectivity vehicles. We know that e-rickshaws in Delhi have taken off in a very large manner, especially to solve this problem. But one of the missing areas that we have not really done or made much headway so far is providing good footpaths and bicycling connectivity with our public transport nodes. And when I was talking initially, this is one area I forgot to mention, that even on this front, Delhi government has launched a very ambitious project where we've taken 540-kilometer road network, the widest arterial road network of Delhi, and systematically in a phase-wise manner over the next 4 years, by 2024, we are upgrading it, we are re-engineering it sort of, and also ensuring there is, landscaping, but also ensuring that they have modern and well-designed and barrier-free pedestrian as well as cycling paths. And to first provide a network at the city level is important, but obviously, if we're talking about last mile connectivity, then we need such network and infrastructure even at the neighborhood level. And this is where in Delhi, especially the role of the municipal corporations under which majority of these roads fall becomes quite critical. But I fully agree that public transport system by itself is not going to solve the challenge of safety or affordability.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, the choice in front of the user is, do I use my private vehicle? And does it give me a better option in terms of the time as well as the cost of travel? Or should I rely on public transport?
So thank you so much, Jasmine. I thank you so much for your participation over here, and we'll leave you. I think.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Coming to Ryan. Ryan, you are Director of Innovative Technology, and when we are facing problems of last mile in India, we've seen a lot of different solutions in not solutions, but the companies have become very popular, like Lime and all. I've seen those kick scooters and all that. Do you see such kind of solutions coming up as last mile connectivity products, even in markets like India, where sometimes the roads network is not good, roads are broken and things like that, and maybe safety, security is also an issue. How do you look at that?
So I could speak to the U.S. experience much better than I could India, but some of the things Mr. Shah was just speaking to, I could have thought we were talking about the U.S. So I think there's a very similar set of frameworks, and it's exactly the case here that in the United States, that whether it's a bike or a scooter, there's a pretty consistent finding that researchers find here, which is if you ask the average person what's their disposition to riding a bicycle for transportation, there's a kind of a small wedge. I think it's 10 or 15% or something like that. They say, yeah, they're confident and they'll do it. Then there's a really big wedge that says, no way, not ever. But then there's like half of all people, no matter where they are, basically will say, I'm interested to do it, but I'm afraid for my safety. So they're called the interested and concerned crowd. And it's exactly the legitimate fear of being struck by a car where they don't have protected networks. And it's those networks we need for bikes and for scooters. And I think one of the most profound facts of this is just the personal economics of owning a car are so poor that if you give people a protected and safe way to ride a bike or scooter, they'll tend to do it, at least here. And I say that the economics are poor for a few reasons. Number one, a car, at least in the U.S., is usually the number two line item on an annual household budget. So here it's around $9,000 a year. Most households have 2 cars, so you're already at 25% of the household income. This is for an asset that for most of the trips is only going a few miles, so you really don't need it. And for those miles, it's wasting 95 to 99% of the energy on moving the car before it even gets to moving the person. And that's for an asset that's sitting unused for 23 out of 24 hours. So the economics just aren't that great, but there's not other great choices. So I think that last mile connectivity key is with micromobility. It's getting the infrastructure in place to make it safe, and a lot of things will start to happen then.
No, I think that's very important. Coming to Mr. Rao again, we've spoken about a mix of solutions like motorized and non-motorized. As far as Terry is concerned, how do you look at this kind of a thing? Because we're talking about cycle lanes, we're talking about different kick scooters or different innovative solutions. How do you see this motorized and mix of motorized and non-motorized to provide mobility solutions in cities? Sir, I think you're on mute, sir. Yes, not
Picking from what Mr. Jasmine said, I think we should look at the total transportation holistically, and there has to be a solution from start to end. The problem, one of the reasons why public transport is not very popular is the problems faced by a lot of users in reaching the actual starting point of the bus or metro, and then reaching the actual destination from the place where they get out of the bus or the metro. So one option could be, if you are able to have good infrastructure for either walking or the non-motorized cycles, that would also, take more people to use the public transport. Having said that, I think we should not look at public transport as a mode of mobility for the people who cannot afford a private vehicle. It should be an option even for people who have personal vehicles to opt for public transport for various reasons, including comfort. This is what is happening elsewhere in developed countries. So many people do not use their personal vehicles for routine trips to office or some other places. They use the public transport. So the public transport system, of course, this was touched by Mr. Jaspin also, should be at a level where people have option of using it instead of personal vehicles. And the other point I have is there are big percentage of people who use right now the non-motorized bicycles for reaching their place of work. If these are motorized, then they would be able to travel much more distance in a shorter duration, and also they can go for a better work options which are now restricted because of the distance. And these bicycles which are motorized would not be very costly, and they would actually improve the efficiency of people who are traveling by non-motorized bicycles now are walking. So this, there's a lot of studies done on this and how a motorized bicycle would improve overall efficiency, productivity of the whole system.
No, absolutely. Personally, I feel, and this is from my personal experience, if there are genuine, credible bicycle lanes, we would love to, at least in winters in Delhi, we would love to travel long distances even on a cycle. Why not? But the problem is that you're always scared that
the problem is even to walk on road is a problem. If you have to reach a bus stop or a metro from my home, I have to use the main road only. So yeah, one is not very sure about the safety and security of the place. So of course, the basic requirement is to develop infrastructure to have some dedicated lanes for the bicycles and pedestrians. That is very important. That would definitely improve the percentage of people opting for public transport.
Absolutely. And Suhas, coming to your company, again, obviously, you guys did a very smart thing when you tossed those tailor-made solutions through shuttle to commuters. But again, on the last mile front, are you guys also looking to extend this to last mile also, that there could be smaller vehicles that may pick up people from their homes and all and connect them to the bigger roads and things like that? Or are you restricting yourself more to the bigger transport solutions? I mean, say buses and all that.
That's a very good question. And if you see that when a person is traveling from their home to office, it's not that they say that I want to take an auto rickshaw first and then a metro and then something of the last mile. They say, find me a way to take me from my home to my office in a, comfortable, convenient, affordable way. And somewhere, because of the flexibility that buses provide, and also, the data that we get, we are able to craft routes slightly better. So a part of it we are able to solve. So if you see, office clusters are generally more dense. So actually, at most places, we are able to take people right to their offices. So look at Cyber City here, or in Mumbai, you look at BKC. You go on that road and you can drop each and every person right outside their office or across the road. So we are able to actually, because we have consumer data, we have their GPS location, where do they get off from the bus, and we take permission for that, and how much do they need to walk. And as we keep getting that data, we keep taking our network deeper into the city and closer to their offices and homes. On the home side, so on the office side, to a large extent, we are able to iteratively solve it.
Yes.
On the home side, it's slightly more challenging because the people are much more distributed. So you are at a hub, and you need people to come to that hub. You can't go around each and every society, housing society or home to pick up people. There also we have kept getting closer again because of the GPS details we have, and as more people come onto the platform, you have the ability to go deeper. And then we have tried to tie up with a few players, and I think post COVID maybe we will give that another push. And there are players, and with more and more digitization, that should become possible. With the existing technology a year and a half back, it was becoming very difficult to make sure that those two journeys are interconnected. You should be able to book in a single journey for both the modes of commute. Truly
Absolutely.
multimodal. I just book a trip and I take a trip to another place, and there I can find another vehicle.
Right.
And that, I think we are still slightly away from the home part of it. On the office side, I think to a large extent we are able to solve it iteratively, and as we keep seeing more numbers, we'll be able to do it.
Right. I think we are getting very close to the close of the discussion. Let's have a last round. I would say last comments from everyone. I'll start with Mr. Srinivas first. So how do you see the whole situation, and where are we heading now in terms of products, in terms of smart solutions?
First, and I would like to thank all the participants, and it's personal learning for me also. I think we are evolving on the right path. Whether it is BS6 or going towards EVs and collaboration with all these the startups who are emerging. So India is going to be a hub of startups, and the plans what we heard from the government side. Looking at all that, there are complexities. Probably, I think every city will evolve its own model. Probably there will be 3-4 models, depends upon the city. But however, I feel that we reach to a reasonable model wherein we'll solve several problems and also stand a good example for several other places.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Jindal. If I can have you.
Yeah, I think from a group perspective, as I mentioned, that we are very much committed to contributing to sustainable mobility through various means of public transport and of course personal transport also. But at the same time, as I said, we are doing a lot of work towards backward integration to contribute towards the futuristic public transport, whether it is EVs, we are already very much there. And in fact, we were the first one, Tata Group was the first one to come out with fuel cell buses, which are the way forward. And of course, there is a lot of focus on developing, as I was mentioning, towards the last mile public transport and making it happen. And various other Tata Group companies are also involved in, say, multi-fuel kind of options also. As I mentioned, fuel cell hydrogen is one. And of course, we have been very much there on CNG and LNG. And through other means like as a smart mobility, many other Tata Group companies are contributing to make all our transport as comfortable and as say affordable to the people through charging network for new electric vehicles also. I think there's a lot of big push coming from Tata Group companies. So I think it's in all our own interest that we need to push this public transport as one of the means of decongesting our roads as well as this. And of course, there is a lot of push from the government side, but obviously there is a lot of private participation has to happen to make it really successful. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Rao, Mr. Rao, please. Sir, you are on mute, sir. Sir, you are on mute.
Yeah. I think we should follow, avoid, shift, and improve philosophy for achieving sustainable mobility. And last year, pandemic, lockdown, and related restrictions for movement have clearly shown that for most of the organizations have realized that the transportation can be avoided without influencing the efficiency of our productivity. So our discussions on sustainable mobility uh, must be holistic and not be limited to specific vehicle segments or specific technologies. And the overall objective should be to optimize the movement of people and the goods, and also consider alternate options available to minimize the carbon footprint in our work.
Thank you. And Swan, very quick comment, and then we close with Ryan.
Okay, I'll keep it really short, but I think it's an exciting discussion, and ecosystem has never been so ready to make futuristic investments, be it in terms of money or effort, and we can see it in with as we mentioned for Tata's in India or be it Tesla in US. So the movement towards automated, connected, and electric vehicles is going to keep going, and we must remember that buses are the most cost efficient, space efficient, and environmentally efficient ways to actually move people. And they are very suited to electrification as well, as Ryan mentioned.
Right. Ryan, closing comments from you. Actually, I want to thank you very much for joining us at that hour in your country, in US. We want closing comments from you.
So I just say I'm very grateful to be included in this really exciting conference. I clearly have more knowledge of the United States and California than I do India. And on that front, I would just say, California is such a leader on electric vehicles because it has such a strong policy framework. And if I can be a resource to any of the panelists or the organizers here in California, if you'd like to come visit, I'd be very happy to be a resource and facilitator. So look forward to future cross-border collaboration together. Thank you very much.
And lastly, thank you, Prashant. Thank you, Shyam, for getting everybody in one screen. We used to say under one roof. Now it's one screen. So thanks a lot for that. I want you to close the session, and thanks for calling me as well.
Great.
Indeed, it's a lot. I hope they must have gathered the new perspective of multimodal public transportation systems and the Future Mobility Summit session 5 with a very correct theme of connected mobility. I am sure that FMS 2021 last session has given us a very new perspective, and this perspective has only been possible because of the exciting coordination and panel moderation by Pankaj. Pankaj is the name which is very well known in Auto Circle, and who is who from the industry, and Ryan particularly remaining awake 1:30 a.m. in the morning and doing the justice with the subject, and participation here in this Future Mobility Summit, and Dr. Ivy Rao's inputs that a new normal is going to definitely embrace this mobility for public transportation in a new way. With this, we would like to come to end of the Future Mobility Session 5, and we thank everyone for participating.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.